Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. It's time again for the Brothers in Tech Suggestions, or BITS episode. Time for the brothers to try and impress each other with a recommended technology and see who might have to break out their wallet afterwards. Enjoy this month's Brothers in Tech Suggestions. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. Over to my right is Brian Jackson. And Brian, how you doing today, man?
Yep, doing good. See, we are getting this whole video thing down, and I'm pretty proud of us. I mean, it took us, I don't know, weeks to get it down. But
it felt more like months, but we'll go with weeks. Well, weeks sounds a little better.
Multiple weeks for sure.
Multiple weeks. So Brian is my brother. So we are Brothers in Tech, and that's kind of why we named it that way. But also the tech side of it, we get together, and when we record, we're talking about technology, but focusing on technology from a personal home family use. So we've gotten into things in the past on television sets, home internet, a lot of different topics we dig into. Typically we get one topic and we just kind of burrow into that for a good, hour or so every time we get together. But Brian, on once every month or so, we like to sprinkle in an episode where we call it our Brothers in Tech Suggestions episode. And Brian was smart enough to take those words and look at the first letter of each of those words and be like, oh, wait a minute, that actually forms another word.
Yeah.
For BITS, the BITS episode, Brothers in Tech Suggestions. And I still that give you kudos for that, Brian. That was a really master stroke. Yeah,
it took a long time to come up with that, and
I'm sure
many different iterations, and
probably a lot of people
focus
helping.
Groups,
a lot of people helping you, I'm sure too.
Well, maybe so, yeah. But regardless, it was all me in terms of this relationship. So you really had nothing to do with that whatsoever. And
no, I did not.
We haven't quite figured out what you have brought to this podcast, but
not much. Not much.
Yeah.
Especially after the last episode we put out, which I think if anybody made it to the end of that episode, kudos to you for doing so. I admit I geeked out quite a bit and got a little in depth, and I saw your eyes glaze over at one point when I was showing large strings of numbers on a DOS-looking screen.
My eyes typically glaze over when you're talking, but that one was a
little much.
Yeah, that was a bit much, but
it was a little.
But I will say that there's probably, I don't know, 1-2 people in the world that may find that really interesting, and so as long as we can help those people out, which is pretty close to our listening numbers anyway.
That's our total listeners anyway, so we're helping. Well, in all seriousness, the last episode, I know we did go a little deep dive working with Homebridge and talking about ways to extend your home automation network. Still interesting stuff, but it did get a little deep. Let's pull back and go a little fun and light on this episode. We're talking about our BITS, our Brothers in Tech Suggestions. This is where Brian and I both bring to the table. It could be an app, it can be a gadget, it could be a website, it could be anything technology related that we're really enjoying right now or have really found a good opportunity to recommend to others. And Brian, if I remember correctly from the setup, the little 30 seconds of prep we did beforehand, I believe you have 2 items to share.
I do.
While I just have 1. Correct?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm doing these 2 items. They're both apps. I'll do one of them now and let you jump in with some more potentially interesting stuff. So I would say my first app, Ellen, kind of falls in line with something that I'm assuming you're going to be super excited about, given how jazzed up you got about backup and backup strategies.
Yes.
That this is kind of in that similar vein. But this is something that I have started using recently for a purpose that I think a lot of people would get a benefit from, but maybe don't necessarily think about doing too often. And that's having duplicate files on your computer. And so
Okay.
I'm someone that tends to save multiple times. If I haven't remembered whether I backed something up or saved a file, I'll save it again into a different location. I'll save it into an online server. I'll save it to a different part of my computer. So I tend to find, especially with photography, I tend to find that I have multiple versions of the same image, multiple versions of the same file, all on my computer. And I usually don't worry about it until my computer gets to the point where it starts to say, "Hey, we're running out of room," and I'll kind of force myself to look into it. So what I went out looking for was a way to remove duplicate files, and I know there's tons of these out there. There's some kind of
Mhm.
cleanup. Uh, what was it? Clean My Mac. Is Clean My Mac one of them, Alan?
Clean My Mac will find, I believe it'll
We'll be
find
able to do some
duplicate files.
duplicates.
Yep.
Yep, yeah.
Hmm.
And so that's something we've talked about before as being a really great app. I wanted to look for kind of a real simple way to go through and look for my duplicates. But one of the tricks I find about dealing with duplicates is you want to be simple. You want to make it really, really easy to do, but not so easy that you regret it later, where you just say, "Yep, that sounds good," delete it. You actually want to be able to kind of be able to dial that in a little bit. So I'm going to show you, do a quick screen share, Alan,
Hmm.
of an app that I started using called Duplicate File Finder. Right, very
Very
straight to the
creative name.
point name.
But what does it do?
Yeah, you know what? I was really amazed when I found what it did.
Hmm.
So basically what this is going to do is going to search for your computer, whatever folder you tell it to search. I just told it to search my entire home folder on my computer, and it's going to look for things that are duplicates. Now, again, there's so many of these applications out there will do this. What I did like about this one, and you'll notice this one is the free version because up in the top right it says "Get the Pro." I haven't recognized anything that I'm missing yet with the Pro, other than I think this will continue to give me some advertisements, which potentially could be annoying. But as few times as I'm going to use this, I think I'm okay with it. But what was really nice is that you could actually tell it when you go. So I initially pulled it up, told it search my home folder, and it started searching and came up with something that looked like this. I'm going to kind of show
Mhm.
you two versions of it. The bar chart, which says, of these categories, here's the amount of data that we think we could free up. And I've already done some of the cleaning. So when I
Mhm.
first did it, there were like 3 or 4 of these bars that were pretty high, and I could be saving some things. So, in terms of pictures, movies, documents, it's going to tell you here's how we think you can clean things up. You've got duplicates of some of these. When you look over to the right, it says, what are the cleanup hints? It gives you some examples of things. So, if I were to click on this first one and say, okay, it looks like I have 2 versions of this same song on my computer. And what I really liked was the idea of this auto select. And so there's a way I can click auto select. Of course, this isn't probably the best view of it. Let me see if I can get one where. Oh, here we go. So lots of folders in which it's saying that we have duplicate folders, duplicate things occurring. So if I were to click on this auto select, you'll see that this is one of the pro features actually with the folders. I should have checked that a little earlier. With files, it's not. Oh, here we go. So these are all duplicates, and it's telling you that we can auto select these, and by auto selecting, you can actually train the auto selection. So let me see if I can pull that up, Alan. And if are you seeing that window, the preferences window?
No, no, not
No,
seeing
no.
the
Okay.
preferences window. Yeah.
So that's what I was worried about. Let me see if I can get you to see the preferences. Yeah, here we go. So
Okay.
the preferences that come up
Oh, there we go.
allow you to make some initial decisions about your auto select. For example, this first one, always select the one that's in the downloads folder if there are 2 versions of this thing.
So wait a minute. So
And-
it's saying if there was identical files in two places
Mhm.
on your computer it found, you're saying in the preferences that you always want it to select, meaning select to delete
The
the
one
one
in
in
the
the downloads
downloads.
folder.
Right.
Okay. Got
Which
it.
for me makes total sense because when
Yeah.
things go in my
Sure.
downloads, I'm not using them unless I pull them somewhere else to be
Right.
able to deal with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I like the idea of the second one, right? Never select anything that's coming out of my music folder or my iTunes folder, So if I have two of the same song, one of them's in my music, let's not delete that one because that's obviously the one
Yeah.
that's in a place where I want to use it. So you can see that there's lots of ways in which you can dial in this auto selection so that it's going to make the right decisions for you. And if you feel comfortable with it, it doesn't delete it automatically. You can say, yep, I want to use auto select. It'll show you the selection of each of these that it plans to delete. And then you can say, yep, I feel good about that. Go ahead and do it. But I like the idea that you can kind of dial this into where you don't have to go file by file and try to figure out which folder is this in. But you can also make sure that there's some things that aren't going to get lost. Like, if it's in my movies folder, or if it's in my if it's in a very protected folder, like there's a folder that I know I keep all my important images, don't ever delete anything from that. Delete something from another location. So so far it's been really good. I haven't played with some of the other features like merge, right? Being able to merge different things when you see similar folders and similar items that you want to kind of merge together to make that work. But so far, this has been really nice. It has done what I want it to do, and I haven't had any of the oh crap moments that I know I've had in the past with some deletion, where I delete something and then realize, okay, that was way too well, it was a little too aggressive in my deletion. So yeah.
a couple notes.
Yep.
I was wrong. Clean My Mac does not have a duplicate file
Okay.
function at all. So actually, this is good. This is, you do have to get kind of a special app to do what you're doing. What's the cost on the app?
So this one is free, but the pro version, let me just show you real quick. Let me see what the pro version is going to do. And I'll tell you actually, so when you say that you want the pro version, it says duplicate folders is something that you can then delete. Right now, you can't delete folders. You can just delete files. You can select duplicates in the folder. So kind of a mass selection of files. You can begin merging folders. And so all of that is $20. So it's a $20 app, and I think it's a one-time $20 app.
So it's there's a free version, and it is a Brian Jackson free version approved, meaning you are using the free version and you're pretty happy with what you can do in the free version right now.
So far, yes, I've been able to delete some duplicates. I went through my photos initially, which is my big issue, right? Again, I have multiple versions of my photos, especially when you're using different software, Lightroom and all of that. It starts copying things over. But so far so good. So with anything like this, backup, deletion of duplicates, always do your due diligence and make sure that as you do it, it's only putting it into a trash folder so that you can undo that if necessary. But so far, this has been pretty good. So that's Duplicate File Finder. And
Duplicate File Finder is the name. You just do a good search on that. You should be able to find that app. Free to download and use for most of its core functionality, but $20 one time to get the pro version. That'll allow you to do some more. Okay.
And it's, and I'm not a huge believer in all the ratings, but on, the App Store, the Mac App Store, it does have a pretty good rating of 4.7 out of 5. So with, 2 and 2,500 ratings. So, that at least it's not a scam, that people aren't getting upset, a month in. So I would check it out. If this is something that you feel like you do, if you take a lot of pictures, if you are like me and tend to save things in multiple locations because you're, maybe super anal about losing things and at some point needing to clean things out, this is a good app to use.
Pretty cool. All right. Duplicate File Finder. Brian's recommendation there. All right. So Brian, I've got something fun to show.
Oh, I'm excited. You've been pumping this up, and I have no idea what it is, but I'm very hopeful right now.
So, I do a lot of production. I produce some online media, some online live shows, podcasts, and other things. And I've always heard about the device called the Stream Deck. Are you familiar with it?
I have heard of the Stream Deck, yes.
Okay,
but I am not familiar.
So the name alone right away just kind of screams, as you use it if you're a live streamer. And that's how it really has gotten started using. People who are doing live YouTube shows or live other streaming shows have a device called a Stream Deck where they can pre-program things to happen while they're on their live stream. They can pre-program to have some text come up on the screen below them when they hit a button, maybe a sound effect or two. Maybe there's certain, if they've got multiple cameras, they may want to do some things with switching things. They basically have a device, and that is this device. And I'm going to go into full screen here for a minute so I can show this off for a bit. Okay. This is a Stream Deck.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
It is a small device with a series of keys here available to use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on and show you that I've got some things programmed on it.
Oh, cool. So it's digital.
Now,
okay.
It's digital. You may ask, so how does this apply to anybody else if you're not a live streamer? Well, here's the thing. I'm not using it for anything live streaming right now. I'm using it for everything else I can imagine. Because what you have here is a device where you can completely program all of the buttons that are on this hard device. This device is a USB cable going into the computer. You have a small app you install on your computer to configure the Stream Deck. And then you're able to go and download pre-made buttons or customize your own buttons to put on this device. And this device can sit right next to your computer workstation. And when you press it, it does whatever you programmed it to do. So for example, got a button here that says, all right, I set up a button to say, open up my calendar app. And if I press it, you're not able to see it on the camera, but my calendar app just popped up on my other monitor. Okay. I can say I programmed one to do a hotkey, meaning a keyboard command. So this is the one for on a Mac where you want to have your Spotlight search window show up.
Oh yeah.
So I programmed that and then my Spotlight search just popped up on the screen. I've got a volume up or down for my master computer volume. Whoops. So I can go up or down, and that actually controls my computer volume if I want to do it from here instead of using a touch bar or using the keyboard commands. But then there's also, so a lot of things within your computer you can program and have scripted to do on this device. So it becomes a kind of a nice handy just off to the side. I just want to press a quick button. Maybe it's quicker for you to do that than doing it on your keyboard or doing it, through a keyboard command. But then it gets kind of nuts. They can do some other things too. So Brian, I don't know if I can show it to you how easily I can show you. I'll pull up the actual program in a minute and you can see all the options. But there is a button here for shortcuts. So on the Mac, you can have shortcuts programmed to do like scripted things. And you can program this button to be one of those shortcuts. So for example, I have this set up to automatically turn on all the lights in my den at home where I do my work. So if I'm sitting here with the little box just off to my side, and I decide, I want to go ahead and get the lights on. I could do Siri, or I could go to my phone and pull up my home app, or just hit the one button and it will just do it automatically for me.
Nice.
I've also got websites you can program in here. So if there's a couple of websites that you go to pretty frequently, like apple.com, I've got right here. If I hit it, it just brings up a browser window and goes right to apple.com on my screen. Pretty nice and simple. Then things can get a little more detailed. So this, let's see which one I'm looking at here. This takes a screenshot of your screen.
Nice. Yep.
And once it takes it, it stores it and saves it on your downloads folder or your desktop. So it's ready to go there. I can mute my entire system with this button. So if I just don't want to hear anything for a while, I can mute it here. But here's some kind of random ones. So you can create folders on the Stream Deck as well. So I've got a whole folder here for Zoom. Zoom has a whole series of plugins that you can download and key into your Stream Deck. So if I go to my folder, it goes to a whole nother screen.
Cool.
And I've got nested folders inside of that main folder. So I've got functions on here. I know these buttons are hard to see on the screen, but I've got one that will mute my microphone. So imagine if you're on Zoom and you would just rather have a hot button off to your side to mute your Zoom, you can turn off my camera. I can do that. I've got one to mute everybody else. If I'm the actual host, I can actually do a mute all participants. And then I've got some buttons to automatically trigger like recordings. I want to automatically make sure I'm recording this Zoom call to the cloud or to a local recording. So there's some other Zoom buttons. You choose which ones you want to drop in here and you choose the layout of where you want the buttons to be on the screen. Then I can go back up a level and I'm back up to my home screen.
Are those physical buttons or are they
Mhm.
touch sensitive buttons?
They're physical pressed buttons.
Nice.
If I push
Mhm.
it, I actually feel a tactile,
Okay.
coming, pressing. This is one for Apple Music. So Apple Music has a whole bunch of things you can plug into. So if I'm listening to music on my computer, I've got a next track, a backtrack. I've got the like or love button. If I hear a song I like, I want to save it. I've got a shuffle button, other things, so I can really control my music from just the keys here as well. Um, Here's probably my favorite one. So you can have text, pre-scripted text that you can have display on your screen anytime you want. So I'll show you an example of this, Brian. If I want to, and I know there's some other apps you can get to do this, but the fact that I can do it with this built-in app is actually kind of nice. So I'm bringing up my chat window with you, okay?
Mhm.
And I've got this button scripted with a preset string of text that says, "I'm sorry for taking so long to respond to this email." So I
Nice.
had that already pre-scripted. It could be a whole paragraph, it could be a word, whatever you want. And if I just hit it, then it will just wherever my cursor is on my screen will automatically drop that text in
Wow.
into that
Okay.
spot. Okay. Let me hold on. Let me stop that. Come back to this again. Um, and then there's even some bizarre random things you can do on this. Let me bring back up to solo view here again. Somebody created a plugin that's a dice. So if you just want a random roll of a dice, you press it and it rolls the dice and gives you a number.
Nice. I mean, very useful, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
There were a couple kids over at my house over the weekend, and they saw that, and they actually rolled the dice for quite a while, longer than I thought they would be interested in doing so. Then I put a couple other random ones. Magic 8 Ball. Somebody created a Magic 8 Ball.
Nice. Yep.
So if I wanted to ask a question, go ahead and ask a question, Brian.
Will Brian be buying one of these?
Takes a couple seconds. What's it say? Yes, definitely.
Definitely. Yes.
There you go.
Very true. Yes.
And then sound effects. I plugged in some sound effects. You're probably not going to be able to hear it. It's not going to play it over my microphone, but it's going to play it on my computer. And I can hear it in my headphones, but it's a little sound effect I plugged in to do that. So this idea of this little box, completely customizable. Let me show you what the actual interface on the computer looks like, because it's kind of gives you an idea of what all you can do. This is what the actual screen, when you install the utility on your computer, will look like. And that's your layout. So I can drag and drop things. Well, hold on. I got to actually pull up the actual screen itself here. So I could actually drag and drop things, in different places. I can take one from some of their pre-built in functions, like there's the Apple Music ones, and say, okay, I want the shuffle or whatever, and I can drag it and drop it onto one of the squares. And I can create multiple pages too. You can have other pages and have a next page or back page button put on the screen. I tend to use the folder. So if I go into the folders, there's my folder. I can now drag other things in that folder and just kind of rearrange where I want them to go. Now, if you don't like, or if you need more functionality than what they give you built in, all these ones on the side, you go to their actual Stream Deck store, which let me share that screen for you real quick. I'm going to stop this one and I'm going to share the actual screen of the store. So now this is the Stream Deck store. And by store, I mean, it's mostly free downloadable stuff, but you can go in here to the plugins. Go into the
And these are all like
plugins.
open source. Someone's uploaded them, right?
Yeah. So I can start to see there's a CPU monitor. If I want to see my current CPU usage on the screen, I can see that. If I want to have an analog clock actually on the little Stream Deck button, I could. The Philips Hue, there's a nice controller for any Philips Hue that you may have. YouTube, if you're watching YouTube and you want to have some controls like skip, forward, backwards button on your Stream Deck, you've got those as well. Those are all just general ones. I mean, it just scrolls on for a good while. You can see there's tons of them. And they're all in different categories here. Here's all the lighting ones. You've got Nanoleaf, Philips, LifeX, a lot of different ones that integrates with there. Smart home assistants. There's a Homebridge one. So kind of keying into what we talked about last week. A lot of social media tools for people who are using this for social or streaming, obviously, is kind of what it was built to do in the first place.
Right.
So there's just tons of things. And then, there's always new ones popping up I've seen that people are putting up there. But all you got to do is say, yep, let's install that. And then it becomes an option on your sidebar that you can then drag into your actual device, your layout. And
Wow.
so it's really cool. I've had a lot of fun with it, trying to figure out what things are going to be beneficial to me to have right off to the side of me as a physical button. I've toyed with the idea of actually having one of these that may sit in my den, as long as I've got a USB cable long enough, and just have HomeKit controls specific to that room here. So it kind of takes that idea of, having something that would be like a controller for HomeKit, but nothing else. Like, it doesn't need to be a phone, doesn't need to be a whole iPad. It's just one of these devices
make it
sitting
a
there.
smart home control center or something.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing about this is it has to be hooked up to a computer. Okay. So you would have to have a computer that's always running to make this work. But you can move it from computer to computer. I've got this here in my office right now, but if I take it home, I've got the same thing installed on my laptop. I can just hook it up at home and use it as well.
Yep.
Just having a lot of fun with this. This is really, really cool. And let me I'll just show you real quick the actual website for the company that makes this, so you can get an idea of this. It is Elgato is the company that makes the Stream Deck. Elgato is known for a lot of other products they make. They do a lot of cameras. They do video capture for computers and lighting. But if you go to the Stream Deck, these are all the options they have of different Stream Decks. There is one that just has 6 buttons, the mini. You've got all the way up to, I think that's 32 on the XL.
Nice.
I've got the MK2, which is the one I'm showing off here. It is $150. They're not cheap. I mean, there are some prices involved in it, but if you feel like that there's an opportunity where it can actually streamline some things in your life, then it starts to become kind of worth it.
What does the mini cost, just to give an idea of the entry?
Sure. Let's go there. So Stream Deck, the mini is $80.
Okay.
And it gives you 6 buttons. Now, even though it's 6 physical buttons, keep in mind, you can still have folders and next pages and all that. So, I mean, you're not limited to just 6 buttons. It's just 6 buttons are visible at one time. So, yeah.
So, Alan, so it seems like this is taking what the touch bar on the laptop was supposed to do, right? It was supposed to be an easy way to access lots of different things, and those things would change, and constantly having different buttons that aren't part of your physical keyboard. So let me ask you, can you program it to have different buttons pop up when certain apps are open? Or is it only like this is a universal set of buttons?
That's a good question. I've seen or remember somebody I've listened to that got me interested in this in the first place, saying that there was application aware or contextually aware buttons on it. I haven't gotten into playing on that. I mean, you could certainly, set it up to where you could have a folder on the homepage, for all your apps. And once you go into the app, you just go into the folder and you can have only app plugins for that app on there. But I want to say I've remembered hearing that you can actually program it to automatically display a page if you're in a certain app.
Right. If not, you would think at least there would be an automation tool that could allow you to do that. So if I open up, a video editing software, then automatically the buttons become my editing buttons that I have put in place. But so I love that. I love that it's physical buttons, right? Because you can start to get in the habit of doing things without having to look over at it every time. You could potentially do it by feel, I'm guessing, which I think is great. And it sounds like you can be pretty creative, right? If you're doing automation things, can you literally go in and use like automator type tools to say, if I press this, then do this, followed by this, followed by this? Or
no, it's going to use the shortcuts on your Mac. So the idea is that you create the shortcut on your Mac, or it does have a tie-in with IFTTT. So if you have a account with that and you've created some automated actions, and you can plug in that and say, if if I hit this button, I want you to run this routine that I set up, and it will do everything you said to do.
Nice.
Yeah. So I just, it's one of those things where I heard about it a while back from people who were doing a lot of streaming of shows. And we toyed with the idea of maybe getting one for our studio because we sometimes need sound effects or we need websites to pop up on the show. But more and more, I started hearing from people who are using it for not live streaming, just using it to automate and make things more productive at their computer. And as soon as I started getting it, I'm like, yeah, I love doing the volume on here so much more than trying to go up to the touch bar and sliding or making sure I'm finding the right control on the touch bar. I've just got my up and down volume system button right here off to my side. So if I just need to go up or down, it's just right there and it's super easy to do. Muting is also great. Muting was always something that I found myself kind of having to fumble to find the mute button if I wanted to mute all the sound of my computer. Having it just right here on the corner of this box is so much easier for me.
Yeah,
you're right. It is the touch bar that they tried to put on the laptop, which they have stopped doing, by the way. Newer ones do not have it because people were not using it. It's just, it was a little clunky to get to. And the fact is it would change based on what environment you were in, which can make sense. But sometimes there's buttons you need to have access to all the time. And the touch bar was kind of preventing us from having that, I felt like. So this is where this comes in.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, it's just, cool. It's been really cool. I've been having fun with it, trying to figure out different applications to use with it. We are going to roll one into our actual production studio, and it's going to be our sound effect machine. We've got a lot of sound effects we do during the show. This is going to give us an easy way to go ahead and program all those or any musical jingles and just have them all loaded up and hit them really easily on a simple box like this. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Stream Deck, anywhere from $80 up to I think a couple $100 if you're $200 to $300 if you're getting the big ones. So
maybe let's talk just briefly about kind of some downsides of something like this or things to think about if you're considering this, right? One is if you're moving around a lot and going, mobile, right? This isn't something you necessarily carry around with you. And so if there are things that you want to do often, like if you're constantly using it and you want to be a big part of your life, are you going to be okay then having your laptop at a coffee shop without this and having to go back to the old way, right? So it's going to teach you ways of doing
you will get very used to it. People who have a desktop computer, it's great because your desktop computer is always at that spot. You can have it off to the side. If you're a laptop user, which I am, so that's a little bit of a challenge for me. Yes, if I'm on the road mobile and not at my typical workstation, I don't have this with me. It is a physical USB connection. It has to be plugged up to your computer. It doesn't go wireless.
They don't have any wireless versions. They're all okay. And no,
I'm sure that's something on the horizon, but right now they're all wired. So you do have to have a standard USB port that you can keep it plugged into. If you want to have it work for anything in your home, it does need to stay connected to a computer. So again, if you're a laptop user and you're thinking about using it to have some functions available in your house, like smart home controls, just understand it needs to be staying connected to a computer to work. The other little drawback I've gotten, if you have multiple computers, let's say a home and a work one, it doesn't sync between them. So in other words, if you create a layout on one Stream Deck, let's say you've got two of them, one in one location, one in another, there's not a functionality to go in and log in and have it automatically set up the same buttons on each one.
That's
so
kind of a bummer.
I mean, granted, it's not the hardest thing in the world to go in and just recreate it on each one. But if you made a change on one, you got to just go make the change on the other. It doesn't sync between Stream Decks. So granted, I don't think it's a huge issue. I don't think a lot of people would have multiple ones of these, but I actually will because I'm planning on getting another one to keep at home and one to keep here at my office. So I will want to keep those in sync. And that's just something I'm going to have to manually do for now.
It does seem like that's something that they need to move towards if they don't already, is have I have my work layout that I want to, let's say one of my two Stream Decks goes bad and I want to change this one to be my work layout and take it to a different place, right? It should be easy to be able to go and say, I'm logged in, synced in, here's my different versions. Let's change to this version right now. And I'm sure that there'll be some way of doing that eventually. It also
Well, I
seems
do
like,
see there's a functionality for having accounts, but
okay,
the accounts and profiles are just logging into your social media accounts, so you can do social media
no,
things. Um, there are some functionality with profiles I need to kind of get in there and play with. I haven't seen, but I still have not seen sharing of a layout across different devices, which is something I'd like to be able to do.
yep,
Um, between that and then what was the other function I was mentioning? Yeah, and just it being a wireless device would be really
right,
cool instead of a
right.
USB device. That's kind of
Wireless
the
would
two
be
on the wish
fantastic.
list. But I'll tell you right now, it's fun, and the fact that you can customize these buttons. You can put your own icons on these buttons if you don't like the ones that come standard with that plug-in or that add-on. You can add text to the buttons if you want to clearly label what the button is for, or you can just use an icon of your own. Even better, like look at this. If I go into Apple Music and play something on Apple Music, let's see, it actually puts the icon of the album
Oh,
right
nice.
there,
Yeah, very
which is
cool.
nice. So it just
Hmm.
did that automatically for me. Um,
I
so
love
it's
it.
just kind of
I
cool.
love
I
it.
can look at it and actually see what's playing. It actually, to me, works a little better than what is it? The little mini player for iTunes that sometimes
Yeah.
you will put just like a small window on your desktop and use that for controlling. I actually like this better. I can look and see, I see the album, skip track, whatever I want to do, or if I like it, I can press the heart button, and it's just it's fun. It's a fun device.
So it seems like anything that you do, if listeners, if you pay attention to the way in which you use your computer and the times where you do things repetitively, where it actually causes you to go and click multiple buttons or get rid of a window to go find the other window to be able to do something new, those are all the things that it would be sure nice not to have to leave the window you're on and be able to reach over and just touch
Yeah.
something and have an action occur.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I don't recommend, or I don't see it as something where it's like, put every bookmark on your web browser as a button on here just to kind of navigate. I mean, it's really thinking about things that right now are requiring you to do multiple steps on your computer and you'd like to be able to do it in one step. That's one.
Yep.
Two is if there's certain things that you find yourself either having to move your hands around a lot for, maybe to different keys, different keyboard commands. Sometimes there's keyboard commands that are extremely helpful, but they require like three key presses, and
Right.
you're kind of,
Right.
like taking a screenshot. That's actually something that, I natively know how to do a screenshot on my laptop, but it's just because I've been doing it for years. If somebody wants to do it, not have to remember the three keys, well, there's a button on here to just hit the button, does a screenshot, and you're done. That kind of idea. And doing little macros, if you want a multi-key press, you can program that into one of the buttons here to do. Um,
Yeah.
technically, you could do a copy and paste. I mean, if you're somebody, it's like instead of hitting the Command C or Control C on my keyboard, I just would rather hit a physical button to say copy, another one to do paste. You could do that as well. So
Yeah.
just all these opportunities. I think it's so much fun. It
Hmm.
seems weird to be going back to physical buttons to do on certain things, but something about it just is very satisfying, and
Yeah.
I feel like it works on certain functions very well. So
Okay. One more question. Is it
yeah,
Mac only?
no, mm-mm,
Okay. What about,
no,
can you do it on a Raspberry Pi?
no, I don't believe
Okay.
so.
So it's Mac and
Let me
PC.
verify that for sure. If I go Stream Deck, I'm looking right now on the downloads. Yeah, it's Mac and Windows.
Okay.
You download the Windows app and it plugs up USB just like it does here. So Mac or Windows, not any Linux or Raspberry Pi capable
Yeah.
side of it. That would be really cool if it
That
was a
would be.
Raspberry Pi version and you did want it. You were going to have a dedicated computer sitting in a room, and
Yeah.
you
You
use
just
this as like a home automation control unit. That would be pretty cool.
mount that under a coffee table or something and have this,
Yeah.
wired to the top of it. Yep.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But I love it. I think it's great. I'm trying to think to myself, since I am laptop based, how useful is it? Is it something I can keep on my office desk and know that when I'm here, this is the way I interact with it? Of course, this is also the reason why I always plug in an external keyboard, one that has the number keypad on it and everything, because I like
Mhm.
physical buttons to do things like volume up and numbers and all of that. This would be beneficial to extend that. I think would be really great. Alan, but you haven't had any issues with, so you unplug it. Let's say I had it plugged into kind of a docking station,
Mhm.
and it's there, and I come home, plug my computer into the dock station. Is it automatically going to open up the Stream Deck app, or is the Stream Deck app always running in the background? Can it
Yeah.
notice it right away?
So the Stream Deck app it shows up by default up in your top menu bar,
Okay.
as an icon up in your top menu bar.
Yep.
And yes, it is a plug and play. I mean, if I plug it up to my computer right away,
It's going.
it's got it up in the menu bar I can go and configure the Stream Deck, or I can set preferences on it or quit it. But there's no power switch to the box. It really is a plug it in. It powers itself up within 10 seconds. It's up and running and has all my stuff loaded.
Yeah. And it
for example,
it does remembers the computer that it was connected to, or
because yes, it does. Because I actually went and took this and hooked it up to one of our studio computers a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
I installed the app on that studio computer, and I put a whole different layout of buttons on that one. I took my Stream Deck, plugged it up to that studio, and it laid out the studio layout.
Oh, perfect.
Right there. I unplugged it, came back to my home laptop, plugged it in, and it's back to my home layout right away. So yes, it will sync up with whatever. It all bases on the app that you have installed on that computer. Whatever layout you've got saved in that app is what it's going to push to the Stream Deck when you connect it.
So you could have this at a home desk with an external monitor, with an external keyboard, and have multiple people bring in their laptops, and each one, when they plug it in, they're going to actually see their own button layout and everything.
Correct.
It's going to recognize.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
that is.
Yeah.
I just think it's a beautiful device. I'm having so much fun with it. Probably one of the best technology purchases I've done in a long time. So very happy with it. Yeah.
I love it.
So that's the Stream Deck. It is from Elgato, elgato.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can go, and that is becoming a big part of their business right now. So you're going to see a lot more models and a lot more capabilities coming up with that here in the near future for sure.
Yeah. So Elgato used to do, they used to have a digital TV tuner that they would use I think I had one of those early on when we first cut cable. So, I've always enjoyed their products. So good company.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, man. Yeah.
Right, cool. Well, I took up a lot of time with that one because I knew that was going to be fun to dig into, but you have a second app to share, right?
Yes, I do. But I feel a little guilty now, ending on kind of a bummer note after that one was so pretty cool there. Okay, but I am going to go ahead and mention this, and it's nothing new and exciting. It's one I think I've even mentioned before. It's one that I'm sure everybody listening knows about already, but I want to actually bring it up because of a particular use case. So one of the things that I've noticed recently, or I've had an issue with recently with my computer usage, is I am teaching in a lot of different classrooms now. And as I move around to these different classrooms, it used to be I just carry my laptop, plug my laptop in, present over the air. But given that our new computers, Alan, you and I have talked about this before, they're dongle based, meaning that if I go into a new place, I have to have multiple dongles to connect to HDMI, to connect to VGA, whatever. And inevitably this semester, I've found that more often where I'm getting to my classroom and realizing I don't have the dongle that I wanted. So I'm starting to use the built-in computer that's in that classroom. Okay. But those are PCs. So we have PCs in a lot of the classrooms, and I'm a Mac person. So one of the issues I'm having is going into these new locations and then not having access to all of the things that I like to have access to, specifically bookmarks within the browser, because I'm going in and using online storage. So Safari doesn't do a very good job with that, where I can say, oh, all my bookmarks are on Safari, and I go to this PC, I can't just pull up my bookmarks in Safari. So I've actually forced me to go back to a different browser. And so lately I've started going back to Firefox. And I'm going to mention Firefox, not because it's the greatest browser, because it has the feature that allows you, just like Google Chrome does, to log in to the browser, and by logging into the browser, it goes and gets your preferences for that particular browser. So if
Okay.
you are somebody that uses multiple computers or has to use multiple computers, and yet likes to use a lot of things through a browser, bookmarks, favorites, even passwords, and all of that, Firefox is a good option for that, especially cross platform. So I've started going back to that, and now when I go into a classroom, I'll just pull up Firefox, which is a native app for these classroom computers. Go up really quickly and just sign in. Once I've signed in, all of my bookmarks are there. All my passwords are available that I might need to be able to log in with, and my history of where I've gone to on different computers. So it's made it incredibly helpful that I don't have to remember all the dongles to be able to use my own computer. Now, there's still issues about files on my computer and all that, but I've just gotten to be more comfortable with using online storage like Dropbox or Box, so that I know if I walk in to any classroom, any computer, I can get access to all of my files just through a browser and knowing that they have Firefox. So I just wanted to mention that to people that get locked into a browser like Safari, which again, it's great. It does the job I need it to do on my own computer. But when you start going on someone else's computer and the ability to be able to have a similar experience over there, you really need to move to something else.
Well, great suggestion. And you're right. Safari is great for syncing across different devices and all that, but you have to be logged in with that iCloud account.
Yes.
And the problem with that is that the iCloud account is more than just Safari bookmark sharing. It is, for you to go and log in on somebody's computer with your iCloud account is a
You're
kind of a
opening
big
up
process.
a
You're opening
big
up a lot
deal.
of things
Yep.
just to get bookmarks to share. I love Safari's bookmark and history sharing. I use it between my different devices. But yeah, if I were going to another person's computer and wanting to get all my bookmarks and all that, yeah, Safari would not be the way to go. And even if I was on a Mac, I wouldn't try to go into somebody else's Mac and log in on my iCloud
Put
account.
in your iCloud. Yeah.
So Firefox will do this. Now, let me ask, will Firefox sync up your history?
I believe so. Let me actually check that, because
I'm just curious about this. Like, this is something I find myself a lot of times needing is I'm on my computer. I am pulling up, sometimes I'm bookmarking things. Sometimes I'm just searching for pages. And if I need to go to another computer and see a page that I saw recently or pulled up recently, I want to make sure, see if I'm able to see that same history, if that's synced up or if it's just bookmarks that are synced.
No, it's history too. And so
Okay,
what I just
good.
did is I just jumped and made Firefox my browser on my phone. And I just added this. So I clicked on Firefox on my phone, went to on the home page. It's got a little, what I also like about Firefox, which, Safari does as well, Google does as well. But now that home page, that splash page that pops up when you pull the browser up, will have some of your most recently visited news, all that sort of stuff. Well, one of those is history. And as I pull up history, I'm seeing links that I visited in a classroom a few days ago.
Okay, good.
So on a completely different machine. And all we did is I just logged into both as my account. So so I've got my bookmarks, I've got my history, I've got, I think, let's see, is the download? I don't know if the downloads will sync up, which you would
probably
think
not.
Probably is not what you want anyway, right? With a different different types of devices. But reading list is another one, just like the Safari has.
And again, what's the difference? No, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Yep. I was just gonna say, and most recently visited or most often visited, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So what's the key difference between this and using a Chrome browser?
Not much. I don't know. For some reason, Chrome has always been, I think, a little bit more of a process for me. It is true. You can log into Chrome, log into Firefox. They both have a login sync option. I don't know. I've never been as big of a fan of Chrome and some of the Chromium type browsers. I think Firefox does a nice job as an alternate to that. I also know that there's some things like with our university and their site where they prefer Firefox, that there's a different level of security that might be there versus some others. So one of the things is go to both browsers, since they both do this syncing. Pull up your most commonly approach to things. Like if you go to Dropbox all the time, if you go to an online storage all the time, and make sure that they show up the way that you want them to show up, because some browsers will end up pulling up information a little bit differently. So, but yeah, so Firefox, I think Firefox does a nice job. I think they will continue to update, which is nice. It's I like the fact that I now have it on my laptop, I have it on my phone, and I also can log into these PCs, and I have a very, very similar experience. And I think that's the key. So
That's
if you're
great.
somebody that has multiple cross-platform usage, and using a browser is something that you do often and is where you kind of get a lot of your information, this could be a nice way of doing that. So.
How is it speed wise?
Pretty good. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And it also has a reader version, which I really like, just like some of the others do now. If you get to a web page that has a ton of images, you click the reader version and just gives you the text.
Good.
So it's good, and Mozilla has been around a long time. They've been doing this for a while. They've never really taken off as the leader of any of the browsers. But I will say, which one of the things I tried to do, Alan, was, I don't know if you've used Bing as a search engine or even as a browser. They have a browser now.
Some, yes.
Okay. So I was checking it out because I was just looking for something different. And one of the issues is if you're on an iOS device, so iOS now has started to allow you to choose a different default browser other than Safari. You can go into the settings and say, no, I want Chrome to be my default, or I want Firefox. Bing, you open up that, and it's a really slick app. I really like it. I like the layout of it, but it's not one of the ones that you can choose as your default. So that makes no sense at all. You can choose it as your default search engine over Google,
sure,
but you can't choose it as your default browser. So Firefox was the one I've decided to move to for a while, and so we'll see. We'll see. I may have to come back and change things a little bit, change my my recommendation if it doesn't work as well down the road. But so far it's done exactly what I wanted to do. Go into a PC, be able to have a similar experience without having to log into that PC. As a user, I can join on and then use the browser.
So I mean, I'm happy to see Firefox is still around and being developed and kicking. I mean, that's great. They've been around for quite a while. I remember that being one of the early browsers I used. Pretty soon after using Netscape, if I remember. I think Netscape was one of my first browsers. Then it got into Firefox, and then you're moving into a lot of other categories, but Firefox is still around and still well regarded. Available Windows, Mac, and Linux, as you can see from the image here as well. So that's good. Very good. So Firefox is Brian's recommendation, kind of a little bit of a blast from the past, but they are doing some good things on the browser side, which is awesome. And that syncing, is very nice. Cross-platform
syncing is key
for sure.
The syncing is key.
Very cool. All right. Well, that was 3 good bits that we got to share.
Yeah, I think one may have stood out above the others, Alan. Of course, it was more expensive. But
it was more expensive. I mean, yes, I never like bringing in a suggestion that's definitely in the 3-digit range, if I can help it. But this one was just it's pretty cool not to bring up and talk about. So so we talked about remind me the app, the First Names app.
Yeah, that is called Duplicate File Finder.
Duplicate File Finder.
Yes.
And we've got the Stream Deck from Elgato. And then we just talked about the Firefox browser that you can get to help sync across cross-platform devices, your browsing history and your bookmarks. All right. Well, that is our bits episode for today. Brian, if anybody's had experience with any of these 3 products or has something to suggest, maybe as an alternative to any of them, how can they get a hold of us?
Yep. You can send us an email at info@themesh.tv. And as Alan said, if you've got experience or if you're someone who kind of gets sucked into a Stream Deck and purchases one and comes up with some creative ways of using it, let us know. I don't know if I need a whole lot more pushing to get one just because they seem pretty cool, but it would be nice to know kind of what are some uses, some other use cases for this to try to make our life a little bit more efficient. You can also go to our website, which is www.brothers-in-tech.com. And that's where you can find previous episodes, as well as you'll start to see some tips and suggestions and some of our show notes and all of that. So brothers-in-tech.
Yeah, we're going to work on getting that website updated. We got to do that. The website's there. Not a lot there yet, but keep checking back because we will be adding some content and getting some things up there for you. So,
yeah, that should be good.
All right, Brian. Well, I think that wraps it up for today.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed, right? I'm always bummed when we end
that?
the bits episodes because
Oh.
this is what I like. I like hearing new things. But you know, it won't
We'll
be
do
a
it
few more
again.
weeks before we'll do it again.
We'll
Yeah,
do it
and
again, though. It'll be all right.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Just hang tight, man. We'll get back to you.
All right, man.
We will be back over the next few weeks, though, with some more informational episodes, or at least discussions about different aspects of home and personal family technology. And then we will roll around to another bits episode probably in another month or so. So stay tuned for all of that. And thanks for watching or listening to the show today. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't cost your pocketbooks a little too much or your wallets to get a little thinner, after some purchases. But regardless, it's all a lot of fun. So thanks, Brian, for your suggestions. And we will talk to everybody next time we get together. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.